Hello and welcome to another captaincy video from Fantasy Football Scout. It's double game week time again. This time Leeds and Southampton play twice. So they play each other at the end of game week 25, while Leeds also play Wolves and Southampton face Chelsea. My name is Joe and joining me is David to look at the best armband options for double game week 25. David, how are you?
Yeah, very excited actually, to be honest, because it's been ages since I've been on one of these videos. It's just been so busy with all the double game weeks we've had and all the midweek game weeks. And
Yeah.
I counted, I think it's 12, 13 now, I think, game weeks since December the 5th. And it's been incredibly bonkers, and it hasn't always been time to squeeze in video appearances. So it's good to be back.
Yes, it's a double game week this week, but it's felt like that. You know, even though they've divided it into 2 game weeks, it's like deadline Tuesday, deadline Friday or Saturday, following Tuesday. It's just been relentless with football almost every night. So sometimes, yeah, and obviously as fantasy managers, we have to watch Burnley play and things like that. So that's the way it is. But that was double game week 24, where Burnley, of course, playing twice. Just before we look at some of the key options, I understand that Fantasy Football Scouts working with Fan Team, and there's a Champions League game open. So, David, what's that about?
Yeah, so as you say, we're working with Fan Team now, and they've got a Champions League game that's open. And of course, the Champions League is back tonight on Tuesday night. So the Champions League game has €250,000 worth of prizes, and €25,000 goes to first place. It's a knockout stages game, so it doesn't matter if you missed the group games; you can still get involved. No problem, as if it was starting anew. The link is in the description if you want more information, and it's 18 plus. And if you are going to be involved, then make sure to be gamble aware, and you can visit begambleaware.org for more information on that as well.
Okay, looks good. Let's move on to matters to do with FPL double game week 25. I think this team are going to be top of the bill, really, for most people when it comes to captaincy decisions. That's because they can't stop attacking. And they got 2 game weeks as well. So let's start with Leeds. Let's have a look at them. So what I've got some stats on the screen. This is last 4 game weeks. Wolves and Southampton are their opponents. Both have been quite porous at the back, quite obliging defences. Looks a great time to attack, to invest in a Leeds attacker and captain one of them. But which one? So first of all, are Leeds options possibly the best captaincy options? And which one? I've got some stats up on the screen, so we'll come to them in a bit.
Yeah, so on the surface, Leeds do look like the place to go, and I'd booked in Bamford to be my captain for this game week a couple of weeks ago. I'd even been considering the triple captaincy, which I don't think I'm going to go with now. But at least it was on my mind. Of the 2 teams, yes, you've got to say that their fixtures look better. Playing Southampton, who've been conceding a fair bit recently, and Wolves, whereas Southampton obviously have to play Chelsea as well. So across the game week as a whole, you'd sort of fancy Leeds in that scenario. Now, the problem is right now that I don't really know what the situation is on Calvin Phillips, which is annoying because that, for me, underpins this whole thing. And, I've not been on these videos for a while, and I'm straight back in already, like, kind of poo-pooing the best options, which I feel like is my MO, to be honest. But, without Phillips, they are really not the same team. He is the guy that holds the whole thing together, both defensively and going forward. I mean, the defensive impact is kind of obvious. Yeah. Everybody knows about it, really. He's missed 5 games this year, game week 6, 7 and 8, 19 and 24. And in those games, they, to be fair, in the first of those, they beat Villa 3-0 at Villa Park. So, I haven't started that well. But in the other games, they lost 4-1 to Leicester, 4-1 to Crystal Palace. I mean, that takes some doing. They lost 1-0 to Brighton, which you as a Brighton fan could probably also say that takes some doing as well.
That was their pitch was also a factor in that. But
yeah. True as well. But then obviously they've lost to Arsenal as well, 4-2. They got absolutely mowed over in the first half. And so the defensive impact is obvious. But there is a little bit of an impact on going forward as well, because a player like him, he's a player who, when he's got the ball, he plays those defense splitting passes like a quarterback throwing a touchdown in an NFL game. That just takes out like 9 players in one go and puts someone clear through, either through the middle or in the wings, and really gets them going. And so then Bamford's what he's done in those 5 games, he's blanked in 3 of those 5 games. So it makes me a bit worried about him. Over the last 4 matches, Bamford, ironically enough, is top of the league for shots on target. But in the Arsenal game, he had just 1 shot all game, and no Leeds player had more than 1 shot. So in that game, you had Bamford, Costa, Dallas, Harrison, and Strauch. Okay. They all had a shot, but they all only had 1. Right. So that's a far cry from what we're used to in terms of, they're a team that really likes to give it a go. And that normally involves a lot of things, a lot of players doing quite a lot of a nice attacking things. But we didn't really see that anywhere near as much in that first half. And I do think a large part of that is down to Phillips not being there. So before I get into who I think is the best Leeds option or whatever, I'm going to spend a large portion of this week following the Phillips situation, because if he's back and he's fine, then all of a sudden I can start feeling a lot more confident about captaining Bamford or Rafinha, because just for me, he is the absolute linchpin of that team. When he's not there, they're just nowhere near as good.
Okay, well, the stats I've got up on the screen are for the last 4 game weeks, and I've sorted them by shots on target. But there's also other stats there, minutes per baseline bonus as well. So that's basically the bonus they get for what they do apart from scoring, assisting or clean sheets. It's also got whether they take corners and assists and chances created. What that shows is that Bamford is top for shots on target with 7. He is also joint top with chances created. So chances created 7, shots on target 7. So that's top on both metrics there. He started all 4 matches. I talked to Seb, who is a Leeds fan, on the Scoutcast recently about that. And we will talk about Leeds in more detail on the Scoutcast this week. But one of the things he mentioned, I was concerned because Bamford had been taken off at around 45 minutes, 50 minutes at one match. And I was saying, is he likely to be rotated, dropped, rested? And Seb's answer was just a flat no. Bielsa just sticks with his chosen favoured a top 11. If they are injured and can't play, that's why they don't play. They don't just suddenly get dropped. So Bamford will not get dropped. So you have that security there. He's had 3 assists, 2 goals, 12 shots in total. So obviously most of those are on target. And he's picking up a baseline bonus every 12, 13 minutes or so. So yeah, he's, underlying stats wise, a great option. But as you say, his attacking threat diminishes, as do all Leeds players, if Phillips isn't there. Rafinha is another great option. He is one I am eyeing up for the captaincy as well as Bamford. I think it's going to be between those two for me. He has also created 7 chances. He's had 6 shots on target, started all 4. He's taken 15 corners. So at an absolutely beige upside chasing level, it's the bloke on corners who could get assists. He's indeed got 2 assists and he's scored once. He's had 11 shots. He's picking up a baseline bonus every 10 minutes. So he's a midfielder, so he gets more for a goal. He's got really good, really strong assist potential just from the basics of taking a corner and someone heading it in. And he's also could get bonus basically for the jobbing stuff of showing up, passing, tackling, etc. So yeah, he's a strong option. Both of those are strong options.
I'm considering Rafinha. And just to add to some of the things you mentioned there, the one thing I noticed that was really quite interesting and exciting is, for those of us who are really dull and enjoy boring stat stuff, I have a table for minutes per expected goal involvement over a specific period. So over the last 4 matches, Bamford and Rafinha have the exact same figure. So their minutes per XGI is 165.9 minutes each. Now, when you think about just looking at the top 10, it's sort of like 65.4, 77.2, 98.1. That's Aubameyang, Gundogan and Sterling. The fact that both players have exactly the same number is just mad when you think about all the variables within that. But that, for me, kind of further points towards what you were saying there, in that they seem equally as likely to actually get attacking returns across that period. But Rafinha is a midfield player. So then if you're looking at explosive captaincy potential, then maybe Rafinha pushes just ahead of Bamford on that particular metric. But also, if we look at talking about the absence of Phillips, in the Arsenal game, Rafinha created more chances in that match than any player. So even though Phillips diminish the sort of the goal threat for a lot of these players. Rafinha's assist potential wasn't damaged at all because, as you say, he's on the corners. So for Leeds to be comfortably second best in that game, but Rafinha be top of the charts for chances created across the whole pitch, both teams, sort of to me suggests that he will feel the loss of Phillips if Phillips isn't available less keenly than Bamford might.
Looking at them, whether Phillips is there or not there, I'm going to guess that Bamford and Rafinha are going to get similar points, except Rafinha has a slightly higher potential of more because he simply gets more points from being a midfielder.
Yeah, exactly.
But if in terms of the captaincy, we have to sort of start looking strategically, and that horrible phrase effective ownership comes into play. And that's where we notice that our players, whether we captain them or not, when we captain Fernandes, it's okay. If you don't captain Fernandes, it's actually a red arrow. I fell 6,000 places despite owning Fernandes when he scored at the weekend. Now Bamford is in danger of getting that sort of effect happening. He is currently in 53, just over 53% of teams. The bulk of those will captain him. So if you don't captain Bamford, you will probably get pretty much no ranking gain from him. You could possibly get a red arrow if there's a surge of support in people drafting him in. Whereas, as we pointed out on the Scoutcast last week, Rafinha was in under 3% of teams. If you captain that player, despite he's going to get a surge in ownership, but he's not going to get up to 50%. Not going to be in half of teams. So if you captain him, the gains could be absolutely huge. So that's something to bear in mind there. He is the differential pick. Worth mentioning Harrison. Created 4 chances, 5 shots on target. If you wanted to perhaps triple up on Leeds and consider Harrison ultra differential there, he's also started all 4, and he's had six shots in total. So he's below Bamford and Rafinha, but he's someone in the mix as well.
Yeah, he's got a really nice matchup this weekend for this particular not weekend for this game week, I should say, with Southampton's defence. I mean, Southampton's defence, we haven't really touched on that yet, have we? Their defence has been quite obliging in the last 4 matches.
I'll put the defences figures up now. Actually,
yes.
So these are last 4 matches, all teams here. So carry on.
So joint worst for big chances conceded there, up there with some really bad teams like Liverpool and Everton. Yeah. But still compared to everybody else, hasn't been very good. Now digging deeper than just the raw number, because you could look at that and think, right, well Bamford and Rafinha are going to smash it, and they might. But digging deeper in terms of looking at where they're conceding these chances, in the last 4 matches, Southampton have conceded 8 chances on their left flank, which is actually the 5th best in the league. Only 4 teams have conceded fewer chances on their left. They've conceded 9 chances through the middle, which is good enough, sort of like mid top half, right? But they've conceded 17 chances down their right flank, which is the 3rd worst in the division. It's over double how many they've conceded on their left. Nearly double what they conceded through the middle. The right flank is really, really bad for them right now.
Just remind me, that's where Walker Peters plays. Is that?
Yes, and so Walker Peters has been missing, and Walker Peters is back. But in terms of the problems they've had in that area, that's where Harrison's going to play. Okay. Harrison would match up against that flank.
Also, Walker Peters, I understand, may be injured.
Yeah, so he might not be playing anyway. So either way, that area of the pitch has been a problem for them. Again, if we're looking for these differentials that maybe have a decent chance, Harrison is in form and lines up against a problem area for Southampton.
Okay, that's a really good piece of information there. We'll discuss that further on the Scoutcast, definitely. But yeah, the figures I've got up on the screen, big chances conceded, last 4 matches. I put these up prior to the West Ham Sheffield United ones on that took place on Monday night. This is being recorded on Tuesday morning. As you can see, Liverpool and Everton are the worst in terms of conceding big chances. But Liverpool have conceded 11 big chances, and their goals conceded is 9, and their expected goals conceded is just over 7. Whereas with Southampton, their big chances conceded is 11, but their goals conceded is 15. So when they face a big chance, they are more likely to concede. Although their expected goals conceded is on a par with Liverpool and Everton there. But Southampton, that did stand out as an interesting stat. They're conceding a lot of big chances, but they're actually conceding more goals there. So they're one of two things. They're either massively unlucky or they're just really bad at conceding big chances, at keeping big chances out. Looking down there, Wolves. Wolves are a funny one. They can look really good at times and they can look quite poor at times. Big chances conceded 6, goals conceded 3. And I mentioned them because Leeds play them, and I think if you're looking at the best matchup, as in Leeds playing Southampton and Wolves, that's probably better than Southampton's double game week, which we'll come to in a sec. But yeah, interesting, and that's a really good piece of nugget about Harrison as well. Let's hope he's assisting Bamford, who will be in most of our teams, I imagine. There. Let's move on to Southampton. So slightly trickier. It's going to be slightly trickier here. So they have Chelsea and Leeds, and the Chelsea defence has started to look quite good. I've just put those defences up again. So I'll put the Southampton stats up in a minute. So there's a sneak preview there. This is last 4 game weeks. So we'll come back to that in a sec. But looking at defences, way down at the bottom, second best there. So Man City, the best defence in terms of conceding big chances. They conceded 1 big chance. But Chelsea, not too shabby either. They've conceded 4, which is on a par with Brighton, who their expected stats have just been turning into actual great defensive displays recently. But Chelsea on a par there. So Chelsea are a tough match for the Southampton attackers. Going back to the Southampton stats again. Ings is absolutely top. 8 goal attempts. He's created 5 chances. He's had 3 big chances as well, and 4 of his shots have been on target. So that says to me, it's Ings or bust perhaps. There's some interesting changes for the Southampton though. I mean, they've been hammered really, really awfully. Another 9-0. But they can pretty much beat anyone on their day, especially with a player without Ings. But there's been some changes as well. Redmond's up top. Adams is out of the side. Ward-Prowse is still Ward-Prowse. Armstrong is still Armstrong. I mean,
Minamino in the team as well.
Minamino's in the team. There are captaincy options there who are playing, who are in attacking roles. But is it a case of Ings or no one else?
Yeah, Ings is the only one that I'm gonna consider. If I was gonna consider a Southampton player, I'm still sort of working out who I'm gonna bring in, if I'm gonna bring in anyone. Obviously the stats that you've talked about with the players there highlights that as well. I think Minamino maybe as an outside bet, just simply because he's not been in that team long enough for us to get a strong statistical idea of what he can do on any given day. I do think that the game week itself is a bit Jekyll and Hyde. It's a bit like Everton's was for this one, in terms of they're going to play a poor side and a great side. So you may be looking at attacking returns in one and 2 points in the other.
By great side, you mean Fulham, obviously, who completely played them off the park.
Yeah, true actually. Well, more in terms of how we can predict it, I suppose. Yeah, because that Chelsea defence does look good. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it might also depend on what happens with Calvin Phillips, to be honest, because if it's looking like he's not going to be involved, then actually Southampton have a really good chance of putting several goals past Leeds.
Right, okay.
Because again, just to go back to the impact that he has. Now, this information I'm giving you now is not completely inclusive of Game Week 24, because of when I did the research. But basically, when they don't have him in the team, then basically they've conceded 4 big chances per game. 3.7 big chances per game, and they usually put in fewer clearances, blocks, and interceptions as well. So they concede bigger chances, and they do a worse job of even getting in the way of them.
Yeah.
Then we also look at the last 4. The team that's conceded the most chances through the centre of the pitch is Leeds, and that last 4 even includes matches where, of course, Phillips was playing. And they generally concede more through that area of the pitch than they do on the flanks anyway. And of course, Danny Ings is right through the middle. So if they don't have Phillips, but even if they do, I think that Danny Ings is just well placed to have a big haul. So yeah, but then with the Chelsea game, it's completely the opposite end of the spectrum because they don't give up anywhere near as many chances.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at just sort of comparing Southampton with Leeds, I think really looking at the so I was just looking at sort of who is a better option there in terms of Leeds and Southampton, and it's Bamford and Raphinha in terms of expected goal involvement are the best out of, if you're comparing Leeds and Southampton. So Bamford expected goal involvement is over 2. This is last 4 game weeks, and Raphinha over 2 last 4 game weeks. Ings is below that, 1.68, so less than 2. And then you've got Adams with 4 big chances. So if Adams plays, you never know. And then Dallas is the next one in terms of expected goal involvement. And that's someone we didn't mention. If you want a punt, you never know with Dallas. -1 this week, 12 points last week. You don't know what you're going to get. So you're going to have to be one hell of a maverick to go there. But Dallas could reap rewards. 2 12-point weeks in a row. You never know. Could happen. But yeah, looking at those sort of stats, expected goal involvement, Bamford and Raphinha are the ones. Ings is sort of third to me. So that's how I would Bamford, Raphinha, Ings. But as you said, a lot depends on Phillips, doesn't it? For both of those decisions. So
they conceded 4 goals in 3 of the games that he's not played.
Yeah.
So he is such a big part. So it's annoying because we aren't going to have that press conference about him until later in the week. So for me, it's very much here's what I think, but I am waiting for that press conference.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the fixtures because there might be some single game week options. Often these get ignored. You never know. I mean, in essence, say for example, Gundogan did really well this week. It's possible he's out for the next game of the double game week. So in fact, he's a single game week player, and he's got 19 points. So there's a lot of options that are capable there. So looking at the fixtures there, I say. So there's some interesting matchups there, and there's some definite single game week options. Fernandes against Newcastle. Fernandes has now completed effectively a 38 game week season, and he's averaging, I think it was Neil pointed out, he's averaging around 7 points a match, and he's had 41 attacking returns from 38. In essence, he's a massively reliable captaincy. And he's against Newcastle, who are awful at the moment, and because they don't have Wilson. So their attack is blunted. What can they do? Salah against a very recently obliging Everton defence, and Calvert-Lewin, if he's fit, against a recently obliging Liverpool defence. That could be a lot of goals. It's a derby as well. And of course,
I've been looking at Salah.
Yeah, Kane and Son play West Ham. So there are options. Do any of those sort of spring out to you?
Yeah, well, Salah is staring at me like he wants me to captain him. It's annoying. So I'll talk about the stats, and then I'll talk about some very illogical sort of way of looking at a derby. Last 4 matches, Salah's had 5 big chances, which is the second highest in the league. It's more than Bamford. He's had the same number of shots on target, and he's had the same number of shots in the box. So what that says is in that period, Salah has shot on target the same amount of time as Bamford, but the chances he's getting are bigger, which means his minutes per expected goal involvement is higher. His shot accuracy is a little bit lower, but his goal conversion is much higher. And of course, we know he's on penalties, whereas I still don't always know with Bamford at Leeds. I mean, I think he probably will, but yeah, he's got a bit of an edge over him there. Liverpool don't seem to have a one player who, when they miss, they're awful, because they can still win without Van Dijk or whatever. So there's less of a reliance factor there, as previously discussed with Phillips. And Everton's defence looks quite poor, second worst XGC in the last 4 matches. And so then you could maybe even argue the same case for Calvert-Lewin. But it's Liverpool v Everton, and even though we've seen some absolute goal fests in recent years, I can think of so many times we've done these videos and gone, one of them looks decent for this, and then it's a 0-0 or a 1-1 with like a goal, like Tom Davis and I don't know, Wijnaldum get the goals. That can happen because Liverpool under a lot of pressure. For the first time in a long time, they might come into this game really feeling like they really cannot lose it, rather than go into it with we have to win it. Everton, I think, would probably take a point off Liverpool right now. Of course, I mean, they might, sort of smell blood in the water and and go for it too. But the thing is, with these derbies, are so unpredictable. So that puts me off a little bit. But anyone who was going to take a bit of a punt, you've just already alluded to the fact that double game week 24, Gundogan might end up being a single game week option. I think that this game week has less kind of reliance on the double game week matches, because I still think they're not as attractive as the 24 ones were, because we don't have Man City. They're not anywhere near as attractive as maybe 26 and 27, or like what we're expecting to come up because of the FA Cup games. Out of most of the double game weeks we've had, this for me is the one where going for a single game week option isn't the worst idea in the world. But of course, it may come back down to defective ownership, because even though I don't think these double game week matches are as appealing as maybe the masses do, the fact that the masses find them appealing might just establish Bamford as a bit of a monolith you can't avoid. Even if they're, in inverted commas, wrong, or they don't understand the whole Phillips thing or whatever. Like that means nothing to them. So then that sometimes ends up forcing your hand. So that factor is going to hang over our heads as well.
Definitely. I mean, this could be a rare week where if you got Fernandes, you can celebrate, and you're not captaining him, you can actually celebrate one of his goals, which is
that's a rare thing.
Curse is too popular. I've got some stats here about just for some of the looking at the single game week options here. What I've done is I've sorted this last 4 game weeks expected goals non-penalty. So these are the best players at the moment in terms of, so if you're stripping out penalties, and of course some of these players have penalties in their locker. So Gundogan is top, Sterling's there as well second, and then Jesus is there within the top 6. This is which underlines just how potent the Man City defence has been. They face Arsenal. If Gundogan is fit, Gundogan is still a great captaincy option. So Sterling. Looking for Salah, so I'm going to skip the West Brom forward. I'm going to skip Cavani for this one. Although if you are Maverick, and Cavani is low owned, but he's just, to me, he's not a reliable captaincy pick as shown against West Brom. And who came away with points out of the Manchester United players? It was of course Fernandes. But Salah is interesting. You mentioned about the big chances. Salah's had 5 big chances. I've seen a lot of people wanting to drop Salah. He's got a potential double game week coming up in game week 26. His expected goal involvement is well over 3. He's had 4 goals in his last 4. And his expected goals non-penalty is well over 2. So he's right up there.
And he's on penalties as well.
And he's on penalties. So that's what we're going to have to. So I've stripped away penalties, which of course he is on. And of course he scored against Man City. So, Salah's a great option. He's a great option. He's very reliable. We can talk more about the likes of Salah and some of these big heavy hitting shields and whether we should keep them on the Scoutcast this week. So do watch that. It's a tough one this week in terms of the double game weeks. As you said, are the double game weeks actually double game weeks? And could the likes of Fernandes, even Salah, do better? So just before we finish, between Bamford and Raphinha, but you're looking at Phillips. Would you? I mean, even if, let's say Phillips isn't playing, would you still captain Bamford or Raphinha?
I've this season, in the last number of weeks, I've been very guilty of looking at effective ownership or predicted effective ownership and caving. So if we're talking realistically, probably still Bamford, because at the bottom of it, I'm just a coward. But as the season gets to this stage, I tend to go away from it a little bit more. If you have ground to make up, I'm sort of about 350k. I've got all my chips left, so I've still sort of got games in hand, so to speak. But it's probably going to be either Bamford, Raphinha, or Ings, but also sort of depends on my transfers as well. So apologies, it's not a cast iron answer, but at the very least it covers me in the event that I say I'm definitely going with this person and then go with someone else. So
okay, well, lots to look out for. We'll cover those in our next videos and podcasts, Scoutcast, but also team news at the end of the week. Find out whether Phillips, the key that unlocks all our captaincy decisions, is actually playing. We've mentioned a lot of members area stats here, so do have a look on Fantasy Football Scout about all the benefits of being a member. It's great value, and you get lots of great insight information there. That we've just presented a snapshot of. Please do press like if you've enjoyed this video, and remember to subscribe to keep up to date with all our latest videos and podcasts. But in the meantime, David, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your captaincy decision.
Cheers, Joe, and good luck to you with yours as well.